What's up, Men's Physique fans, and welcome back to another video. We are fresh off of the Olympia stage, and I wanted to make a video that gives you guys my unique perspective while everything is still fresh in my mind. I want to highlight the first call-outs, the top 8, and there are definitely some shockers, so let's jump into it. The first call-outs consisted of 8 people: Cory Morris, Carlos Ocran, Edvon Palmero, Ryan Terry, Ali Bala, Emanuel Hunter, Tor Chavez, and Aaron Banks. Now, there might be one name in that group who a lot of people didn't necessarily have in there, and that's Carlos Ocran. After seeing him compete at the Dubai Pro earlier this year, there was no question that his physique was absolutely incredible, and his most dominant attribute showed up on this day, which was his back. But even though he has a crazy physique, he did find himself looking to be in that either 7th or 8th spot at the end of pre-judging. And then we have Cory Morris. Cory looked absolutely insane. I've always said it. Cory has a very high ceiling and a very high floor. A bad version of Cory is still going to be one of the best in the world. Now, again, Cory Morris has one of those physiques that is very unlike anybody else's, so it's very hard to compare him to anybody. He's not like Ryan Terry, and he's not like Aaron Banks. It's just one of those physiques that you either like or you don't. And when it comes to the Olympia and when you're setting the standard, I just don't think that his look was something that the judges were looking for. And I'll be honest, I never understood why Cory was never in that top conversation. My previous predictions had him in 3rd, and right now it does look like he's in that either 5th or 6th spot. But again, he was on point, his conditioning was there, his fullness was there, his posing, his presentation, his waistline, everything was what we know Cory to be. But again, it's just one of those physiques that you either like it or you don't, and unfortunately, even though he's in the first call out, he's in that conversation, he's just not in the top conversation for the win. And next up, we have Edvon Palmero, and guys, this might just be the best Edvon that we have ever seen. And again, I've said this time and time again, Edvon was practically out of Men's Physique just last year, putting on so much muscle. The day before the show, he weighed in at 205 pounds. I remember when I competed with him at the Sasquatch Warrior, he weighed 222 pounds, which was well over his weight cap. And this was the most polished, conditioned, and just overall balanced version of Edvon from front to back. He also has a great set of legs on him, which also helped just overall complete his physique. He looks phenomenal. And I do believe Edvon is going to be one of those guys who inches his way in that top conversation every single year, because he is where he needs to be muscle-wise. He doesn't need to continue to grow, just add a little bit to the density to the back. But again, this might just be my favorite package that Edvon Palmero ever brought, and there's a reason why he's fighting for that top 4. And next up, we have to talk about Emanuel Hunter. And again, I told you guys, there are a lot of people who are just sleeping on Emanuel Hunter, and I don't know why. I know he's been a little inconsistent, and I actually know he placed like 6th place at the Arnold Classic earlier this year. But Emanuel has just one of those physiques that if he's on, he's so hard to stand next to. And I don't want to say he's hard to beat, he's just hard to stand next to. The reason I say that is because, again, his fullness through his chest, his arms, his shoulders, and his back overall width is just out of this world. When it comes to Emanuel, detail has always been one of those things that he needed to focus on, and there's no question he improved this package comparative to last year's Olympia when he placed 4th, but he still needs to be able to kind of edge out those lines throughout his midsection, throughout his back in order to be in that top conversation. But guys, Emanuel Hunter has arrived, and it's crazy that we have to say that now, like a year after he's already placed 4th at the Olympia, because I feel like a lot of people just felt like it was a fluke, but no. This man is solidified, and he's here, and he's gonna be very hard to beat for the years to come, because the craziest thing about his physique is there's still so much to improve on. But again, he was polished, he was on point, and Emanuel Hunter is fighting for that top 4. And next up, we have to talk about Tor Chavez, another guy in this lineup who absolutely blew me away. When I was standing backstage and I was watching some of these athletes walk by, guys, Tor stood out. Tor was full as a house, veins ripping through his body. And again, just overall, you can clearly see the amount of density that he added to his already pretty big frame, right? When it comes to Tor, his knock has always been his midsection control. And even though I didn't get a chance to actually see it on stage, after watching the video, it was safe to say he handled that very well because he always has a good core. It was just the distension and the inability to hold it for an extended period of time. Again, Vitor has such a unique look, right? He's one of those people, like almost like a Cory Morris to a small degree, where he doesn't look like many other people. He's so full. He's also has great overall conditioning, and he can still work on that back. But again, I said it before and I'll say it again, Vitor is another one of those guys like Emanuel Hunter where he is going to continue to rise. Now for your top 2. Going into the show, there was a lot of hype surrounding Ali Bala, and it's safe to say he delivered. And some. Ali Bala looked absolutely amazing. After coming off a New Year Pro, Pittsburgh Pro win, and now stepping on the Olympia stage and placing top 2, or seemingly placing top 2, it's safe to say that he's here. And you know the best part about Ali Bala's story is that Ali Bala last year placed in the last callouts of the Olympia. And 1 year later, fast forward, not only did he get those dominant wins earlier in the season, but now he's fighting for the Olympia title. And one thing about Ali, he manifested it. He talked about it. He said that he was going to be in that conversation. He said he was going for the win. And right now, at pre-judging, he'd never lied. He's going for that win. So I want you guys to let that settle. I want you guys to let that sink in, all right? Like, you truly, manifestation is truly a living format in this sport. Like, if you do not believe it, it will not happen. And Ali Bala is a prime example of it. He brought in that next level of conditioning. He brought in phenomenal balance from front to back. Even though his front is amazing, he brought up his back very similar to how Ryan Terry did earlier last season. But nonetheless, right now, Ali Bala looks lights out. And I can guarantee you this, if not this year, Ali Bala will win the Olympia in the years to come, because he has so much room to considerably improve, and that's the craziest part. And he still finds himself in this conversation. And not only that, he is now teamed up with George Farah, which has clearly been an absolutely crazy addition to his team, because his physique since has just been getting better and better. And last but certainly not least, we have Ryan Terry fighting for the win. Now, the main thing I wanted to pay close attention to this year, comparative to last year, was whether or not Ryan was able to actually add muscle on because of how much he was close to his weight cap last year. So when I take a look at his physique now, there's no question. He was able to maximize his fullness, but his package was very similar to what it was last year. The one thing that is a consistent factor with him is his conditioning is absolutely lights out. Now, I do believe his back was better last season, just a little bit more fullness, but this package here was just probably the most conditioned Ryan Terry that I've ever seen. And for those of you who've been following Ryan Terry's career, we all know that that's a very, very hard thing to do when you're consistently being held at a high standard for conditioning, and he absolutely nailed this look. Now, even though Ryan didn't necessarily improve dramatically from last year, I do think that Ryan is going to win this year's Olympia. Why? Simply because he managed and controlled all of his variables, and he has the least weaknesses on stage. He still needs to improve on certain areas, but nonetheless, he is the one with the least weaknesses compared to everybody else in this lineup. And again, Ryan Terry coming for his second title. Before we wrap this video up, I want to kind of wrap up my thoughts of this prejudging by giving you guys who I believe placed where. Starting off with Carlos Ocran. I do believe he finished 8th place. Then we have Vitor, who looks like he placed 7th. And then it looks like we have Cory Morris, who is finishing 6th place. A same finish from last season. And then 5th place, Emanuel Hunter. And then moving in to what seems to be 4th place, either Aaron Banks or Emanuel Hunter. And this is where it gets really hard, but I'm gonna lean more towards Emanuel Hunter for 4th place. I'm gonna put Aaron Banks finishing 3rd again, Ali Bala placing 2nd, and your champion, Ryan Terry, bringing home his 2nd title. So let me know what you guys think of this first call out in this year's Olympia. There is so much more that we have to catch up on, but first things first, I wanted to get this out. I appreciate you guys, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.